Welcome. Welcome to our tiny desk worship for First Church and Parish in Dedham. Today is January 31st, 2021. We will begin with our centering thought. This is from Richard Schwartz, who's the founder of Internal Family Systems Therapy. If you consider your thoughts, urges, and impulses to be coming from an inner landscape that's best understood as a kind of internal family populated by sub-personalities, many of whom are childlike and are suffering, then it makes more sense to take that next step of comforting and holding these inner selves rather than just observing and objectifying them. We begin with our prelude, Scaramonte by Florence A. Goodrich, played by Derry Dolezal. Today we gather at 9:45 in our Zoom social hour link to watch our worship service together. And if you don't do that, you can watch this asynchronously at any time after it's posted, after 9:30 a.m. in the morning. You can also join us for Zoom social hour whenever you're done or at around 10:30. We hope that you will join with us in Zoom social hour when you can. There are other opportunities to get together, including a Dismantling White Supremacy book group and a daily meditation and a writing group twice a month. All of the links for these can be found on our website at dedhamuu.org and in our all-church email that goes out every week. You can sign up for that on our website as well. Please join with us and relax into now our introit, A Curious Story by Robert Schumann, played by Derry Dolezal.
I'm reading on the coldest day of the year so far. I'm wearing my hat and my scarf and my gloves. Wild Geese by Mary Oliver. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the geese high in the clean blue air are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over, announcing your place in the family of things. And now join us for hymn number 318 in the gray hymnal. Hymn number 318, We Would Be One.
I light our chalice this morning for the transition of leadership in our country and the ways that we're all trying to make sense of this changing world, with a prayer that we can use our best selves and our best sense of love and compassion for each other to make sense of what's transpired. And I light our green sanctuary candle for all the ways we strive to be a more sustainable congregation. Please say with me the unison affirmation as is printed in your order of worship. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in freedom, to serve humanity in love is our covenant with each other and with God. I'll now ring our bell as we invite our children to pay attention to our intergenerational message. I still hear it a little bit, do you? Today I want to talk to you about listening and really listening to yourself and listening to other people. And that's what we're going to be talking about in church. And one way that we try to do that as Unitarian Universalists is to approach each other with a respect and honoring the worth and dignity of every person. So when we try to listen to people, we need to try to honor their worth and dignity. And that's hard to do when you're mad at someone, isn't it? It's very hard to do. I'm Irish enough to have a temper, and I know that sometimes when I'm really mad, it's not the right time to have a conversation, right? So what I want to suggest to you today is that there are 3 things you need to think about when you're dealing with your feelings and with someone else's feelings. And that is when you can approach them with kindness, compassion, and curiosity. That's the most important one, I think. When you can you know in your heart that you can approach someone with kindness, compassion, and curiosity, then you know you're ready to have a conversation and your temper isn't going to get in the way. And sometimes I get really mad at myself too, because I don't like the way I behaved or because I didn't like the way I treated someone. And I need to approach myself with kindness and compassion and curiosity so I don't keep making the same mistakes over and over again. And so I can also forgive myself and begin again in love. And so those are the things I want you to think about today while I'm talking to your parents about internal family systems therapy, is that when we can take a minute to see if we have those three K sounds, kindness, compassion, and curiosity, that we can listen better and we can be more supportive and we can treat each other with inherent worth and dignity. And it's just as important that I treat other people with inherent worth and dignity as I treat myself. So when I feel like I've made a mistake or I've missed an assignment or something's not quite right, if I can approach myself with kindness and compassion and curiosity, I might see why I behaved a certain way and do it differently next time. If we were at church right now, I would sing you to your morning classes, but instead I invite you into a time of prayer or meditation, as is your practice. Paying attention to our breath is one way that we can have more compassion for ourselves. And we'll begin with the meditation on breathing by Sarah Dan Jones, performed by our First Church Choir.
When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe.
Let us be grateful for all the silences in our lives, for with them we may more completely experience the sound. Amen.
Our first reading today is from Internal Family Systems Therapy by Richard C. Schwartz and Martha Swees. A system can be defined as any entity whose parts relate to one another in a pattern. Thus, systems include everything from watches to televisions to transit systems. In addition, by this definition, all biological organisms, from bacteria to whales, are systems. Human systems include everything from an individual's personality to a nation, and both operate according to belief. For example, a nation has a set of laws that encode cultural beliefs over time. A system is composed of smaller systems, subsystems, but is also part of larger systems, just as the state contains counties and cities, but is also a part of a nation. Thus, depending on one's point of view, any entity that is being examined will be the system of focus. Human systems function best when they are balanced. We believe that there are 4 dimensions for assessing balance within a system. First, the degree of influence a person or group has on the system's decision-making. Second, the degree of access a person or group has within the system. Third, the degree to which the system's boundaries are balanced. And fourth, the degree to which subsystems within the system have boundaries that are neither too rigid nor too diffuse. In a balanced system, each person is allowed the degree of influence and access to the system's resources and responsibilities that is appropriate to their needs and equal to those of people in similar roles. Please enjoy our anthem, Tremere, or Dreaming, written by Robert Schumann and performed by Derry Dolezal.
Somatic Internal Family Systems Therapy by Susan McConnell. On average, we breathe about 1,000 breaths every hour, most of which we are unaware of. Lucky for us, our life doesn't depend on us being conscious of our breathing. It is taken care of by a structure lying deep in our brainstem. Shining the light of consciousness on this largely unconscious act has tremendous potential for assisting the healing process. Bringing consciousness to this involuntary act our life totally depends upon provides a portal to the state of our internal system and to the stories waiting to be revealed. As I sit with my client and connect with the ground, I begin to be curious about my breath. What sensations do I notice as I breathe in and out? What is the rate of my breathing right now? What places in my body are moving as I breathe in and out? Can I feel the vertical line of energy between the earth and the sky that anchors me? Do I need to make minor shifts in my alignment so this energy can flow freely? I expand my breath. I begin to be curious about my breath. What sensations do I notice as I breathe in and out? What is the rate of my breathing right now? What places in my body are moving as I breathe in and out? Can I feel the vertical line of energy between the earth and the sky that anchors me? Do I need to make minor shifts in my alignment so this energy can flow freely? I expand my focus to include the space that holds me and my client, the space we are both breathing into and out from. My heart, nestled snugly in between my lungs, protectors and vulnerable parts alike feel held and gently rocked in the rhythms of in and out. Self-energy can be sent to parts on the inhale. Burdens can be released through the exhale. New qualities arrive on the inhale. When emotions begin to flood the system, the rhythmic waves of the breath can be an anchor in stormy emotional seas. Please join us in hymn number 88 in the Grain Hymnal, Calm Soul of All Things.
When you really think about it, everything is a system. Nature has countless systems. There are fixed systems, like solar systems, and living systems, such as plant and animal life. There are mechanical systems created by humans, such as heating and cooling systems that regulate the temperature in our homes, and plumbing and electricity systems that meet our every need. All the parts of systems, both mechanical and biological, need to work together to make our home safe and hospitable. And when systems don't work or don't work together perfectly, things feel out of balance. We've all had to endure a great deal of change this past year, and our field of focus may have become more inwardly focused as a result, or we may have been more distracted by world events. There have been plenty to choose from. Or you may have become more focused on biophilia from your daily walks in nature. When you can't see your friends or be involved in their lives, you naturally have to focus your attention on something else. Even our psyche can be thought of as a system. Just as Richard Schwartz outlined in our first reading, as we start to look at our feelings and emotions as a system, when we see how they interact and work together, we can start to understand ourselves and others better. Internal family systems therapy is rather a new form of therapy created by Richard Schwartz in the 1990s after working for years as a family therapist. His theory starts with the premise of family therapy that no individual can be understood outside of their connections to their family. But he takes it a step further, acknowledging that we all internalize our understandings from our family of origin, and that then internalize those formational interactions into different parts of our personality. While we all have a central self, it is not always the chief agent in coordinating the parts of us as an individual. The self, or higher self, has endured much parsing of definitions over time. In the psychiatric community, I have always preferred the more Jungian definition of self, which Carl Jung signified as the unification of consciousness and unconsciousness in a person, representing the psyche as a whole. For our purposes today, let us consider the self as the unification of all the influences that make us who we are. Then, if we combine that fact and that system, it makes sense as Richard Schwartz defines it in our centering thought today. And consider our thoughts, urges, and impulses to be coming from an inner language and landscape that's best understood as a kind of internal family populated by personalities, many of whom are childlike and are suffering. Then it makes sense for us to take that next step of comforting and holding these inner selves rather than just observing and objectifying them. I became first interested in this form of therapy when I attended a Mass Bay minister's workshop a few years ago led by the Reverend Jory Agate, who is also an IFS therapist. Several years before, I had attended a 4-day workshop for ministers on Edwin Freeman's work that applied the model of family systems theory to organizations such as churches. Jory explained that so often ministers get caught up in interpersonal conflicts with members of congregations because we do not understand the differences between parts and a person. And if we could learn more about our own parts, we might have more compassion and curiosity for those in our charge and be able to treat them with more inherent worth and dignity. As a special education teacher before ministry, I had often ascribed behaviors as reactions to stimulus instead of a central to a person's selfhood. As a UU minister, I have long been fascinated by all the ways we can live into our first principle, to respect the inherent worth and dignity of every person. IFS therapy and understanding that we all form parts to aid and sometimes that hinder our expression of our full self makes a lot of sense to me. When the COVID restrictions started for me, I did a great job of navel gazing and became very aware of how I have been unable to stop many bad habits I've been wishing to stop since my adolescence. For example, I still bite my nails and I eat too much sugar. Without meaning this or any sermon to be a confessional, I entered into virtual therapy with an IFS therapist at the start of COVID. I have found this practice of looking inwardly at my parts and conversing with them as though they were individuals making up the whole of my personhood has been an invaluable practice added to my meditation. Imagine for a moment that your true self, whomever you imagine that to be, is in the form of a Navy SEAL probing the deep unconscious of your personality. If you start in your boat or submarine at the top of your head and then float down through all the parts of your body as though it were an ocean of treasure and traps, who might you encounter? In IFS, there are no bad parts, and the therapist encourages you to approach each part with compassion, curiosity, and caring, and kindness. Can you imagine what it might be like if you approached even the things you don't like about yourself, or even the things you don't like about other people, with compassion, curiosity, and caring? How many fewer arguments would you have with yourself and others? For me, dissecting my parts helped me to root out a sense of shame that was born as a result of a long ago trauma, as well as internal anger that was born from being deeply misunderstood as a child. Finding my voice to talk about these and other parts and nurture them as best I could have helped me to understand the ground of my anxiety that leads to nail biting and self-harm, and aided in letting go of them a little bit. The best thing in IFS is that there are no bad parts. I have been engaged in finding unconditional positive regard for every part that makes me who I am. In doing so, I see I can love even the most difficult parts of myself and others. I will always be a work in progress. I believe the key to truly respecting the inherent worth and dignity of every person is learning to turn within to find compassion and curiosity and caring, even for our most imperfect part. I invite you to join with me in singing From All the Fret and Fever of the Day, hymn number 90, From All the Fret and Fever of the Day. And now let us fix our steps, so we stagger not in the uneven motions of this world, but go steadily on our way, neither centering our journey by the weather we meet, or turning aside from anything that might befall us. Amen. And please join me for Zoom Social Hour.